You ever backed a non-Democrat, Rubenstein?
I don't back anybody. I stay out of politics. I haven't given money in 25 years.
Okay. But you have preferences. In the Democratic Party, who do you like this time around?
Well, I know a number of them. I think they're all really talented. They could all do the job.
What do you mean all? All 22?
All the ones that I know, I think.
Oh, okay. Which ones do you know?
I know Joe Biden. I think he could do a job very well.
Okay.
I know Kamala Harris. I think she could do a job very well. I think that many of the senators who are running, I think, are very well qualified. But it's too hard to tell, and it's too early to know. If you go back 10 years, or to the last 10 presidential elections, and say a year in advance who is likely to be the next president, you'd be wrong almost every time.
Oh, when you don't need to go to Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren for the Democratic plank, or whatever you want to call it, if you will. But just in general, with the center of that party right now, what are the policies that they're espousing that you find favorable, so that you're positive about the prospects for a Democratic candidate for president? Which policies do you like?
Well, remember, Democratic candidates say a lot of things, and Republican candidates say a lot of things, and governing is much different. So when somebody
so you're saying these crazy things we're hearing you don't think you need to worry about because they're not going to happen?
I realize that many things that candidates say in campaigns don't actually.
Are there any of them that you wish would become policy, or do you just say, oh, they're just talking that way?
I think it would be a good idea if the Democrats and Republicans were to work together. That would be the best thing.
Okay, but let's just go through some of them. How about Medicare for all? Does that sound good for you?
I don't know exactly what it would mean, but probably wouldn't be something that we could afford.
How about free college education for everyone?
I don't think that would be affordable, and as we now understand.
Are there any of the policies that are getting all the attention that you think would be positive if they were put into law?
Well, sure. I think it would be good if we were to work out our health care system, make it better than it currently is. I think everybody wants to do that. Medicare for all is different, but you're going to have compromises. This isn't going to be the same thing as Medicare for all, but an improvement on what we have would be a good idea.
How would you raise taxes? Where would you raise it, and how would you do it? And then what would you use the money for?
Well, right now, the deficit we have is very high. It's $1.3 trillion a year. We have $22 trillion of total indebtedness. So I think what we should do is ultimately try to reduce that deficit. And we also have to...
Not what the left is talking about, David. They're talking about expanding entitlements and infrastructure. No one's talking about raising taxes to pay down the debt. But you asked me what I believe, and this is what I believe. I believe we should reduce the deficit, and I believe we should focus much more on income inequality by getting people educated to a greater extent than they are. Right now, for example, 14% of Americans are functionally illiterate. We're letting people drop out of high school prematurely, and many of the people in our criminal justice system are functionally illiterate. So what does that mean? School choice, charter schools that would do?
Well, try to get people to stay in school longer, making certain that people get better educated.
Is that a function of, is that a function of money, though, that you think is needed?
So are you for charter schools or against? Are you for school choice or against school choice?
I am in favor of best public school education you can have, but also I think charter schools also work, and private schools can work. It's not the form, it's the method with getting parents or guardians to be involved as well, and making certain that kids feel they have an opportunity to rise up in the system, as I think I did.
So where would you raise taxes? On who and how would you do it? Would you like the wealth tax? Would you raise taxes on corporate? Would you hope that they rescind the tax reform bill of Trump? Do you think we should raise corporate taxes?
I think that it is unlikely that the current tax bill, if the Democrats win the White House and they control the Congress, is likely to stay in place.
So, but I was asking you whether. So would that be something you as a supporter there, would you hope that they raise corporate taxes back?
One of the things that we need to do is make certain the Social Security system is solvent, which it won't be in the future.
But what about rescinding the corporate tax test? Do you think we should go back up to a higher level for corporate taxation?
Well, everything has to be part of a package. You can't just say, can I do this, can I do that, can I...
You won't tell me whether you think we should raise taxes on corporations?
If I was in the room and I would say, here, what are the trade-offs, I would make a decision, but I can't just answer your question by saying...
What about marginal rates on individuals? Would you raise those?
I would have to see it part of the package, what is going to be part of the whole package. I couldn't just do it by one thing or another.
What about carried interest? My favorite topic with you.
As part of the package. I'd have to see what's part of the package. You can't just say one thing alone. What is the impact of that on other things that you're going to do in the...
Everything you're saying makes sense to me.
I haven't heard him say anything. That's why you're in the center here.
I haven't heard you say anything. I haven't heard an answer to a single question.
Just to be clear, generally
I didn't give you the answers that you want.
Do you feel it's necessary to raise revenue? How about we just put it in that context?
I do think we need to have more revenue, yes, and we also have to cut some spending, but we need more revenue.
And do you believe that we need to raise more revenue by raising taxes, or do you think that there's a way to create more revenue by either lowering taxes or doing other...
Well, higher growth. Higher growth will raise more revenue.
Correct.
And if we could actually get to 4% growth, we would solve a lot of our problems.
Do you think that that's realistic, or do you think that that's a historical anomaly?
It's harder than it used to be with an economy of our size, but I think a goal of somewhere between 3 and 4% growth would be a good goal to have.
Do we do infrastructure, David? Is there a way that, and it should be public-private?
Infrastructure is unlikely to pass the Congress anytime soon. The Democrats and Republicans can't agree on how to finance it and who's going to pay for it. So I think it's going to have to be done through the states more than the federal government.
Well, how much with New Green Deal talk? And that's a major plank. It really is. I mean, even Biden just came out the most, center candidate, at least that's how he's labeled, is on board with it would be very costly, some of the initiatives that we're talking about. Is that something that you think we should...
As even the opponents of it said, all the details haven't been worked out. It's basically aspirational. I'd have to see what the details are.
We need to have that discussion. We hear that a lot, don't we? That's what we keep hearing. Well, let's have that discussion. We don't really take any of this stuff seriously, but let's have the discussion.
Well,
that's basically what I hear.
All people who run for president say things that they realize when they become president difficult to do. You have to live in the world of reality. As President Trump learned, everything he wanted to do, he couldn't get done.
He's done a lot, and he's gotten a lot of pushback for everything he has done, too, hasn't he? Yeah.
So I would say if you were elected president of the United States, whatever you might have campaigned on, you would learn very quickly that you can't get everything done that you like. One of the reasons President Trump, I think, likes tariffs is it's something he can do unilaterally. It's very difficult to get things done in Washington unilaterally. That's one of the things he can do.
And gotten much more difficult in recent years, over the last decade or so.
It's much more difficult now than it was 10 or 20 years ago to get something done in Washington. Much more difficult.